আসসালামু আলাইকুম সুধী দর্শক, স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি আপনাদের সবাইকে আমাদের আজকের ইয়োর ফাইন্যান্স উইথ মুহিম তানজিবে। ইয়োর ফাইন্যান্স উইথ মুহিম তানজিবের মাধ্যমে আমরা চেষ্টা করি পার্সোনাল ফাইন্যান্সের বিভিন্ন বিষয় তুলে ধরার, ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাওয়ারনেস ক্রিয়েট করার এবং ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল এডুকেশনকে প্রমোট করার। এই অনুষ্ঠানে টেলিফোন অথবা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপের মাধ্যমে আপনাদের সরাসরি অংশগ্রহণকে আমরা স্বাগত জানাই। আপনারা অবশ্যই স্ক্রিনে যে নাম্বারটি দেখতে পাচ্ছেন সেই নাম্বারে কল করলে আমাদের অতিথিদের সাথে কথা বলতে পারবেন, অথবা আপনাদের কোনো ফাইন্যান্স রিলেটেড যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে সেগুলো আমাদেরকে করতে পারবেন, আমরা সেই উত্তরগুলো দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব। আপনারা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে যে নাম্বারটি দেখতে পাচ্ছেন মোবাইলের, সেখানে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আপনারা মেসেজ পাঠাতে পারেন। আমরা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে যে প্রশ্নগুলো আমরা পাই সাধারণত আমরা চেষ্টা করি অনুষ্ঠানের সেই উত্তরগুলো সরাসরি দেওয়ার। যদি কোনো কারণে আমরা অনুষ্ঠানের মধ্যে সেই প্রশ্নগুলোর উত্তর দিতে না পারি তাহলে আমরা অবশ্যই অনুষ্ঠানের পরে হলেও সবগুলো প্রশ্নের উত্তর দিতে আমরা সচেষ্ট হই। শুরুতে একটা কথা জানিয়ে দিতে চাই যে লাইভ টিভিতে ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাডভাইস দেওয়ার কোনো স্কোপ নেই, কারণ ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল অ্যাডভাইস দেওয়ার আগে আমাদের অনেক পার্সোনাল বিষয় নিয়ে আমাদের যারা ক্লায়েন্ট আছেন তাদের সাথে কথা বলতে হয়, বিভিন্ন প্রশ্ন করতে হয়। সেই লাইভ টিভিতে তো সেগুলো করার সুযোগ নেই। এই জন্য এই অনুষ্ঠানে যে সমস্ত তথ্য আপনারা জানতে পারবেন সেগুলোকে শুধু তথ্য হিসাবে নেবেন, অ্যাডভাইস হিসাবে নয়। অ্যাডভাইস নিতে হলে অবশ্যই আপনারা লোকাল কোনো অ্যাডভাইজারের সাথে কথা বলতে পারেন। আপনারা যদি হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আমার সাথে যোগাযোগ করেন আমরা চেষ্টা করব আপনাদের যে অতিথি যে সমস্ত অ্যাডভাইজাররা আছেন অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েট অ্যাডভাইজারের সাথে আপনাদেরকে কানেক্ট করিয়ে দেওয়ার জন্য। তো বরাবরের মতো আমার সাথে আজকে দুইজন অতিথি আছেন। আমার বাম দিকে আছেন প্রফেসর ডক্টর রইস আলী। হি ইজ এ prominent property investor in the West Midlands region. He is also involved with various other business, social and charitable activities. Rois bhai, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome Sam. On my right hand side I have Mr. Shoaib Nabi. He's a familiar face, obviously. He's been to the show before. Shoaib is a mortgage and protection advisor, a specialist in all types of residential and commercial mortgages. Shoaib, welcome to the show. Welcome Sam. কথায় আছে যে সঞ্চয় করে সে ভবিষ্যতের জন্য নিরাপত্তা তৈরি করে। One who saves creates security for the future. ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সিকিউরিটি ক্রিয়েট করতে হলে বা ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল আর্থিক নিরাপত্তা বা ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সিকিউরিটি ক্রিয়েট করতে হলে আমাদেরকে অবশ্যই সঞ্চয়ে মনোযোগী হতে হবে। এছাড়াও ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সিকিউরিটি ক্রিয়েট করার জন্য বিভিন্ন ধরনের ব্যবস্থা কিন্তু রয়ে গেছে। তো আমাদের আজকের টপিক হচ্ছে আলোচনার মূল বিষয় ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল প্রোটেকশন। এই বিষয়ে কথা বলার পাশাপাশি আমাদের অনুষ্ঠানগুলো সাধারণত লুজলি আনস্ক্রিপ্টেডই থাকে। আমরা প্রতি পর্বেই প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টমেন্ট নিয়ে কথা বলি। তো আজকে এর ব্যতিক্রম নয়, আমরা প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টমেন্ট নিয়ে কথা বলবো এবং আমাদের যে এক্সপার্ট গেস্ট আছেন, হি ইজ এ প্রমিনেন্ট প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টার ইন দ্য ওয়েস্ট মিডল্যান্ডস রিজন, as I was saying. We'll ask him his strategies and his how he started and all this. We also have a regular mortgage market update every 2 weeks. আমরা আপনাদেরকে মর্গেজ মার্কেট আপডেট নিয়ে আসি। তো আজকেও তার ব্যতিক্রম নয়। শোয়েব আপনাদেরকে মর্গেজ আপডেট গত 2 সপ্তাহে কি ঘটেছে ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল মার্কেটে এবং কোন দিকে যাচ্ছে পরিস্থিতি সে ব্যাপারে আপনাদেরকে অবগত করবে। তো এই ব্যাপারে যদি কোনো কল থাকে, কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে আপনাদের অবশ্যই কল করে আমাদেরকে প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন। তো আর কথা না বাড়িয়ে let's go to the questions and answering sessions. First of all, I would like to ask my guest. He's obviously a prominent property investor. So Rois bhai, if you could tell us what inspired you to start investing in property and why did you choose Coventry as your primary location, as I know you have most of your investment probably in the West Midlands or Coventry region?
Thank you, Muhim bhai. First of all, I'd like to thank NTV for inviting me, and yourself. It's a wonderful program. I'm really privileged and honored to be with amongst very professional people. When I started my property business, why Coventry? Because I grew up in Coventry. I lived in Coventry over 3 decades. And I'm homesick. I've been to various other cities and worked in various other cities, but I've always came back to Coventry. So I thought, if I'm going to start my business, my journey of investment, why not start in Coventry? And as you probably know, majority of the Bangladeshis restaurant trade, we call it the Indian restaurant, but it's not really true Indian restaurant. It's majority is Bangladeshi restaurants.
That's true, yeah.
And we believe that, we are very hard working individual. We work really, really hard. And I thought, if I'm going to excel in this field, then I think the best thing is to know about the business first, work in a business, and then capture what is the need for my community. So basically, one thing I'm doing, one is I'm looking after my needs, and I'm looking after other people's needs.
Absolutely.
Which I think I'm giving back something to the community. Hence why I thought of myself, I always thought in my mind that if I do go into any type of business, and being a Bangladeshi, it's already written on your forehead that you are going to go into restaurant business.
Yes, that's not the case.
And age of 15, I started working in restaurants, and I was really more keen to work in a restaurant.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Studio মাত্রা পারবো নি মধ্যে
যে মাত্রা ভাই খোকা
আমি একটা বলতে কথা আমার কম্পিউটার
জি
তো আমার দুইটা কার্ডের বিল আছে তিনটা বিল 3000 হইব
আচ্ছা আমার মনে হয় ভাইজান আপনার বেস্ট হইব আপনি যদি হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে আমার একটা মেসেজ করিলেন বিকজ আপনার পার্সোনাল বিষয়গুলো না হইয়া হয়তো আপনি অনুমান করতে পারা হাজার হাজার দর্শকের শুনরা তো আপনি যদি মেসেজ করেন তখন আমি মেসেজের মাধ্যমে উত্তর দেবার চেষ্টা করবো আপনার জি
আমি মর্গেজ অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করা বাদেও আমি কিন্তু করতে পারবো আগে ব্যবহার করতাম এখন তো বয়স না আমি তো বেতন পাইয়া করতাম হইব
যদি আপনার আচ্ছা সুন্দর প্রশ্ন করছেন ক্রেডিট কার্ডও বা কোনো কার্ডও যদি আপনার বিল থাকে এটা আপনার অ্যাফোর্ডেবিলিটির উপরে ইম্প্যাক্ট করে ঠিক আছে অ্যাফোর্ডেবিলিটির উপরে যেহেতু ইম্প্যাক্ট করে এটাই আপনার মর্গেজ অ্যাপ্লিকেশন ও ডিসিশন ওই ইম্প্যাক্ট করব বুঝাইতাম পারলাম কিনা যে ও কারণ জি বুঝছেন আবার কোকা প্লিজ সো আমার মনে হয় বেস্ট হইব আপনি এই ব্যাপারে যে লেন্ডার আছে নানি যেখানে আপনি অ্যাপ্লাই করছেন তারারে বিস্তারিত সপ্তাহ খুলিয়া খোকা এবং আপনার যে ইন্টেনশন ওটাও খুলিয়া খোকা তারা আপনারে কইব যদি আপনি মানে তারারে জানাইয়া রাখুন অবহিত রাখুন তখন এই ব্যাপারটা তারা পজিটিভ হিসাবে দেখব আর যদি না জানাইয়া আপনি মানে আগুয়াই নানি তখন আপনার প্রবলেম হইতে পারে অ্যাপ্লিকেশন ও ডিসিশন বুঝছেন নি থ্যাংক ইউ বাই দেখতে থাকো কাশো ইনশাল্লাহ Sorry, we have another caller. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Baita আমি জানতাম যে শেয়ার ওনারশিপ কোনটা কিটা বাইয়ার শেয়ার ওনারশিপ হইলে আমি কিটা কোনোদিন পুরা মালিক হইতাম পারবো নি
শেয়ার্ড ওনারশিপ যে শেয়ার্ড ওনারশিপ হইলে আপনি মালিক হইতে হইলে আপনি যে শেয়ার আপনি ওন করেন এটার তো আপনি মালিক ফয়লাও আর যেটার ওন করেন না ওটা আপনি কিনতে হইব ওর পরে কেনার পরে আপনি মালিক হইতে পারবা
আচ্ছা শেয়ার ওনারশিপ কোনদিন বাড়া দেওয়া যাইব নি
শেয়ার ওনারশিপ বাড়া দিতে হইলে আপনি এটা চেক করবা যে তারার যে টার্মস এন্ড কন্ডিশনস থাকে যারা আপনার শেয়ার ওনারশিপে প্রপার্টি সেল করে যে অর্গানাইজেশনে অথবা যারা কাছে আপনি মর্গেজ লইরা দুইটা পার্টি ইনভলভ ঠিক আছে না নি তো দুই তারার কন্ডিশন অনুযায়ী আপনি ব্যবস্থা নিতে হইবা আপনি বাড়া দিতে পারতা না চাইলেও না তারারে না জানাইয়া এটা লিগ্যাল হইতো না বুঝতে পারলাম নি থ্যাংক ইউ ভাই জি জি কন্ডিশনগুলো আপনি ভালোভাবে পড়তে হইবা এবং বুঝতে হইবা
আর আমি যদি কোনোদিন বেচতে হইতে দিতা তারা কিছু বেচতাম হইব নি
এগেইন এটা আপনার কন্ডিশনও লেখা থাকবো আপনি তারার গোছে বেচা লাগতো না যদি আপনি ওন করিলেন সবটি বুঝছেন নি বা আপনি যদি অনওয়ার্ড পারচেজ আপনি যে শেয়ার ওন করেন এটা তারার গোছে বেচতে পারবা কিনা এটা সাধারণত এটা বেচা যায় অনওয়ার্ড পারচেজ 12 জনে জানিয়া কিন্তু হইব বাট এগেইন আমি এমফাসাইজ জোর দিই মোটার উপরে যে আপনি টার্মস এন্ড কন্ডিশনস ফলো কাতার লগে এবং এই কোয়েশ্চন আপনি যেহেতু আপনার মাইন্ডও আইছে আপনি তারার লগে ক্ল্যারিফাই করোকা ওটা আমার অ্যাডভাইস থাকবো আপনার কাছে রেকমেন্ডেশন থাকবো
ওকে ভাই আপনারা তিনজনের ধন্যবাদ
থ্যাংক ইউ ভাই দেখতে থাকো কাশো thank you for your call sorry Rois bhai
so basically when I was age of 15 I started looking into going into the catering business which is it's Bangladesh's heritage of hospitality.
Yes.
And I thought, if I'm going into the trade, whichever trade I will go, that I will make sure that I will excel in that trade, because I think there's a reason why I'm going into that trade. So I seen majority of the Bangladeshis are working in the trade and they're doing very successful. Yes. And I can assure you that each and everybody who has worked in this industry, who has made fortune, is from the British curry houses.
Yes.
And so I thought
of that,
I'm honored. I do tell everybody, I blow my own trumpet. I said I've made my money from a curry house, and I believe this industry, and we know that we are having a little issue with our industry at the moment, but it's how you want to take it to the next level. I think there's always a scope. I know we're having a lot of staff issues, then you're having a problem how to run restaurants. We can't run restaurants like flock wallpaper, dark and dull. We have to come out and do something modern and very creative. And those dishes we are, 20, 30 years ago, like chicken madras or vindaloo or tikka masala, you have to be a unique signature dishes. This is how you're going to excel your business. And I tell every youngsters, I will say to them that if you want to come to the restaurant trade, is not a bad trade.
Yes.
When people say you come to restaurant trade, is long hours, unsociable hours, you can't give time to your family and so forth, it scares people. No, now modern days, if you really want to open your own restaurant, I think the hospitality business is still very good, very profitable, and you can have a quality life.
Fantastic.
It's all depends how you manage your restaurant, and manage is very important. And nowadays social media plays a very vital role in marketing your product. Before, I'm talking 30 years back, you know how we used to put a small advert. It used to cost us quite a lot of money, but we didn't know how to measure that. Also, we used to do leafleting as well, create a menu, drop the leaf. Those are the old-fashioned ways. But now with the new technology, and I salute the youngsters, when they are opening restaurant, first of all they look at it, oh, I want to open a restaurant, so there's few restaurants in the area. They'll do the market research. What are they doing? What is the turnover? Is there a profitability when I'm going to be investing huge amount of money? And before, our people used to think, okay, Rois Bhai is doing well, okay, can I find a shop nearby? And then we'll open one.
Thank you, Rois Bhai. Obviously we got to know a bit of insights, your property investment journey, and at the same time you talked about restaurants and how times changed. Thank you so much. It's insights of how you started out. Coming back to you again, so let's go back to Shoaib, as we were talking about our topic today. Obviously we talk about property investment and mortgages in every episode, but also we are trying to talk about financial protection in this episode. If you could tell us, Shoaib, obviously in terms of financial protection, what is PMI and what does it cover? What is covered by PMI?
It's a good question, Bhai. So recently, as we all know, NHS is struggling. Lots of people are waiting in the NHS wait lines, and PMI stands for private medical insurance. Now, the main use for that is to get people the medical need that they require without having to wait for the NHS. Now, a lot of people compare our healthcare system around the world. We are one of the countries that have the NHS. However, with the NHS having such a backlog, people are struggling to get the health requirements. Some people need surgeries, some people have heart conditions, some people have other issues like hip replacement, and they can't get it on the NHS. What PMI does, if you have the policy beforehand, they will pay out for the cover, for the recovery, and get you the treatment that you need. So we had somebody that had a heart problem. They had the cover beforehand, and then they had the heart transplant with the cover. So it gives you the life.
So you don't have to wait on the NHS waiting list for years and years. If you have a private medical insurance, you can get it done there and then with an expert physicians and doctors.
So depending on the type of policy you get now, there are different levels of policy. Some policies cover you for more health conditions than some others. Some will take you to a different country even if you need to get your surgery done there by different specialists, whereas some basic policies just cover your basic requirements and your basic GP checkups, Some people are quite scared to even consider it. They think, oh, we got the NHS, why do we even need to look into PMI? But what PMI offers is the extra care that you need. Maybe you've gone to your GP and you need a surgery and you can't wait a year or two.
Sure.
PMI will cover that.
And can I ask you quickly, does that cost a lot of money to have a private medical insurance?
PMI starts at a very reasonable price. Obviously, it does vary depending on individual. Obviously, if you're a bit older and you have more health risks, then the price is slightly higher. However, the amount you pay towards your NI is quite similar to what a PMI cover would cost you. And then the thing is, at the end of the day, we get car insurance, we get our fridge covered, we get all the insurances in our house.
What about our health?
Exactly. So if tomorrow you have any health condition and you need to get surgery as soon as possible.
I know someone who has got a gallbladder stone, and he's only young, and the chap is walking around doing his, obviously he's got a young family, he has to look after them. He's doing good business, alhamdulillah, but he didn't have the private medical insurance beforehand, and now it's been nearly 6-7 months, or is it a year? Almost. He's walking around with these stones inside him.
I think what Brother Shoaib said is fantastic. You know, we don't look at, you know, we work really hard day in, day out, and we earn a lot of money, but the biggest problem is we will do a car insurance, we'll do other insurance, but we don't insure ourselves. And it's very, very vital that if we don't take care of ourselves, then how we can excel in the wealth? Because if we're not there, then the wealth is not good enough. So it's, today's program, I really salute you, Muhim, to have this gentleman in here and give this sort of a vast knowledge and expertise to our viewers. Because the viewers, a lot of people think, okay, I have a car insurance. Why do I have a car insurance? Because if I have an accident, it will cover me. But if you don't have your own insurance yourself, then what's going to happen? Because NHS is at the moment, the backlog of NHS, it will take over a decade to solve this problem.
7.4 million.
7.56, just to be
5.6,
exactly.
On
so
the list,
so what I'm saying, you know, we should look after ourselves, then look after our wealth. Otherwise,
health is wealth.
Exactly.
If we're not being able to walk or go out, what's the point of the money?
And since from COVID, I don't know if you realize, there's a lot of people are getting illness. A lot of people getting so much, they don't feel well, they've got a headache, they've got a body ache, they don't feel like going to work, they feel miserable. There is a backlash from this effect, you know.
And funny thing is, it doesn't even cost that much. I think Shoaib was about to say, I mean, I know friends and families and clients who insured their whole family. You know, the monthly premium is around 100 quid. And what is 100 quid? It's nothing. If you just get a policy for yourself, it's even cheaper. So, I mean, obviously, prices varies depending on your health and age.
But if you think about even £1,200, anybody, a mediocre family can afford £1,200. But that covers them for any critical illness, which they don't have to wait. If they're waiting for 6 months, a year, before they've actually diagnosed their issues, they can be dead. You know, so
like for example, nowadays people complain that we're trying to get GP appointment, we can't 8 in the morning. Where some insurance providers even provide a GP on phone, so you could open the app, book appointments the same day,
instant GP appointment,
and you can see a GP and find out what's happening.
But even though they say, Shoaib, brother, I've noticed in Coventry especially, and various other towns, they've said the same. They say 8 o'clock, but when you ring them at 8 o'clock, you're waiting for 20 minutes, exactly. And by the time you're answered, they said, well, yeah, I'm sorry, it's all booked. Absolutely. So when do we come back? Oh, another 2 weeks time, because we've got backlogs. So before you've got a flu, you've got an illness, you've got to deal first. Otherwise, after 2 weeks later, you may not need them. Absolutely. But back in the days, I'm going back a few years back, what used to happen, you can go to the surgery and you'll be sitting on a chair. It's like a singer's chair. So you move. So one person goes and the next person sits on the next chair. And you can see it within the day. But those days are completely gone now. And it's vanished. Nowadays, new modern way is that you have to wait 2 weeks. And that's not acceptable. And I think the private medical care is very important nowadays.
It is.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shoaib. We have a lot to say about this topic, but I've been told that we are almost time to go for a break. But before I go, I want to quickly ask you, Rois bhai, what is your overall investment strategy and how has it evolved over the years?
See, in 80s, I mean, we've been investing from 80s and 90s. There was a big ditch because what happened was we invested in residential properties, and residential properties is not about yield; it's about what the rental market is dictating in the area. So we used to get around sort of £400-500 per month. But the problem we used to face after a year, we used to get £6,000-7,000, but we used to spend about half of the money on the service of the property. There was so many times the bathroom leaking, this is having a problem, the tile is falling. So we had so end of problems, and that time the property was in letting as well. So we've changed our strategy into commercial. When you have a commercial property, you look at it in a different way. You look at a yield. What is your return of investment? So if you're looking at 10%, ideally people look at 10%, which is a good number, 10% return. Whereas I look at, in a way, you should look at least minimum of 15% minimum, because there may be other factors that the interest rate can go up. There's other factors that something else can change, so it doesn't affect on your borrowing, because soon as you default on a small print, at any time they can say, right, okay, you borrowed £1 million, for example, even if you got £500,000 left, and even they know that you can serviceability, they'll say, I want the full money back. So you have to make sure all the time that the loan to value is 50-50. This is what
This is what your strategy
my strategy is 50. So in a rainy day, like we are facing now, whereas about 2-3 years ago, we were paying about 1.5-2%, even 3% in a commercial. But now we're paying 8-9% in commercial. So what happened is people sort of geared up so high that they're pulling out all the money and reinvesting in properties like a snowball effect. But the interest rate gone up, they didn't realize. Now they're saying, well, hands up. And they're defaulting, and the property is getting repossessed. Hence why we're having a lot of repossessed properties in the market, house and commercial.
So you have bit of a headroom, if you like, because if you are having a low,
you have to have a buffer all the time. You're absolutely right. In commercial properties or any investment, always do not extract all the money out.
Don't take too much risk.
Yeah, if you take too much risk, then you are not thinking forehead in the future. If you want to continue your growth, then you have to be on a safe bet, because you are going to be here for long term. Property game, I will say to everybody, each and everybody, if you think the property game is like overnight you're going to become a millionaire, never think about properties then. Property is a long-term gradual growth. It's going to have organic growth. So you have to be prepared for 10-15 years. Otherwise, if you think it's a quick you want to turn the money around, then go into business, which is you think the business is profitable, and then you can turn more money. You can make more money in business than property, but property is safer, and it's how you structure your business. And I will always look for 15% yield or more.
Fantastic. Now, and very important thing you said, structuring is the appropriate way is very important. Obviously, a lot of landlords, property investors bought properties in their personal name. So tax is another issue, isn't it? Because when you go over the threshold, you pay a higher amount of tax. We have to go for a quick break. After the break, we are coming back with more questions. শুধু দর্শক, আপনারা যেরকম এক্সপার্টদের কাছ থেকে শুনছিলেন, শোয়েব বলছিল যে আপনার প্রাইভেট মেডিকেল ইন্স্যুরেন্স কোনো এক্সপেন্সিভ কোনো পলিসি নয়, এটা খুব অল্প দামে পাওয়া যায়। ব্রেকের পর আবার আসছি। ধন্যবাদ, সবাই সাথে থাকুন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আসসালামু আলাইকুম সুধী দর্শক, বিরতির পর স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি আপনাদেরকে আবারও ইয়োর ফাইন্যান্স উইথ মুহিম তানজিবে। আপনাদের যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে অবশ্যই আপনারা কল করে স্টুডিওতে আমাদের সাথে কথা বলতে পারেন, অথবা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে মেসেজ পাঠিয়ে আপনাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে সেগুলো আমাদেরকে করতে পারেন। বিরতির আগে আমরা কথা বলছিলাম প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টমেন্ট নিয়ে, এবং আমার এক্সপার্টদেরকে আমি জিজ্ঞেস করছিলাম অ্যাবাউট হিজ প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টমেন্ট জার্নি অ্যান্ড his current property invest strategies. আমরা প্রপার্টি নিয়ে কথা বলার আগে চলুন জেনে নেই প্রপার্টি ইনভেস্টমেন্টের অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ একটা উপাদান মর্গেজ। We'll get a mortgage market update from our mortgage advisor Shoaib Nabi now. Shoaib, if you could.
Yeah, of course, bhai. So, like Shoaib mentioned last week, we had the review from the Bank of England, and they mentioned that everything's going to stay the same. Base rate is going to stay the same. So since then, we haven't seen a big change in the market. What we've seen is interest rates kind of level out around the 4.75 mark. What we've seen though in the last 2 weeks is the inflation numbers have come down. So recent inflation numbers were 2.3, just to check. So 2.3%, the latest figures were shown. But now the thing is, what we have to wait for is the next meeting in June to see. Are we going to see another increase? Are we going to see a drop? And then we got the votes coming up. Which party is going to come in power, and that plays a big change again.
Change a lot of things
exactly in the economy. So whether that's going to be the Labour Party, the Conservatives, or a totally different party forming, it will make a difference on what kind of rates we're looking at. But currently, the market is very steady. Banks are very confident at staying below the base rate of 5.25. So if you got clean credit files, it's still a good time to buy. However, depending on what the party comes in power, we might see some changes in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shoaib.
No problem.
So inflation has gone down. That's a very good news.
Yes.
In terms of rates, it hasn't gone down yet, but we are waiting to see the next MPC Monetary Policy Committee's meeting and see what happens. Thank you. Coming back to you again, at this point I'd like to ask Dr. Rois about obviously your areas of expertise where you invest predominantly is in Coventry in the West Midlands. What is the current market trend in Coventry? What are you seeing? What are the changes?
It's a very good question, you know. you don't want to trip me over, but I've got the answer for it. The recipe is there. You know, being the chef, you have always recipe in your mind, what you're going to cook straight away. And your smiles tell, I'll give you the recipe you like. I tell you why. The Coventry is the fastest growing city after London.
Yes.
Because the supply and demand is huge. You go to Coventry, you go to Zoopla, Rightmove, any of these moves, and you look for a property, you're struggling. But there's a lot of people, they want to invest in Coventry. We've got great 2 universities. We've got Coventry University and Warwick University. They are both great universities and they fall into Coventry. So hence why people would want to invest in Coventry. And even the route to go to London is about 40 minutes. We've just invested in Coventry £95 million in a very super duper high profile train station in Coventry. So if you haven't visited Coventry, you're missing something.
Yes.
I know we are next door to Birmingham. The thing is, ironic thing, when people come to me and I go to various places in UK, this is where are you from, brother? And I said, I'm from Coventry. And they scratch their head and they say, where's Coventry? I said, look, we're from Birmingham, and this is, I have to stop saying that, you know, because Coventry is a unique city.
Yes.
Hence why I did my investment in Coventry. I thought there's huge growth in Coventry.
And in the past years, I mean, I think 5-7 years, I have also noticed a lot of people ask me about Coventry and, you know, do you have any properties for sale in Coventry or investments? I know, you know, because obviously I work in the property sector and investment sector, and I see a lot of people investing in property. And I think this trend is also like still going on, and a lot of people want to invest.
It's still going in both sectors, in residential and in commercial.
Because of the 2 universities and HS2 now,
You got the HS2, you got the grade 2 universities. Accommodation for student residential is huge. We've got huge towers in the city centre. Before, I used to say, we hardly see anybody walking about 7-8 o'clock in the city centre. Now is so many people, because we've got so many towers, and all of them are student blocks. So this is bringing a huge investment in Coventry. Because as you know, in Birmingham, what's happening to Birmingham?
Wow.
It's gone bankrupt. Look at Coventry, we're still surviving. The finance is still there in Coventry. So why not invest in Coventry?
Exactly.
And all my businesses, I thought of myself, look, if I invest in properties, and even the yield is better. If you I'm not promoting Coventry because I'm from Coventry.
Been a great ambassador so far.
So the yield is so good in Coventry. Even if you invest in properties, even if you buy a property for say 150 to 200,000 pounds, you're still getting about 1,400 pound rental in a residential property.
Amazing.
And in commercial, you can buy a property for something like about 200, 250. You're still getting over 25%.
Fantastic.
So it's
Fantastic.
a very good deal.
I like an answer with numbers, because no one wants to give you the
But I'm talking
specific
to
numbers.
But I'm talking to a
definitely.
finance minister, and if I don't be prepared today, I was so worried. I'm talking to a mortgage broker. He talks about number crunching,
Yes.
and I'm talking to a finance minister who talks about finance. I think I'm only a guy with the spice. How am I going to tackle these? So I had to cook something very quickly with you guys.
You came prepared by. Thank you so much. Coming back to you again.
Right.
So Shoaib, we were talking about protection, financial protection families. You explained very well what is private medical insurance. At this point, I would like to know more about income protection. What is that? What is it? What does it cover? And who is it for? That you would recommend?
Now, income protection is something that no one knows, to be honest. Income protection, people think, oh, it's not needed, or it's not something we need. But I'd like to give example. Let's say somebody's got ATM in the house, and ATM, they're taking money out every month, and one day the ATM breaks. You're going to think, where am I going to get money from now? That ATM is normally somebody working in the family. One person, two people.
Cash machine in the house.
That's it. So
beautiful.
That's the individual working. So when you're working each month, you're getting your pay slip, you're getting your income, and you think, oh, if I get ill, there'll be sick pay, or my company might pay out. But most people don't even know what the sick pay covers. So first thing I would say is read into.
And what about if you're self-employed?
Exactly, and a lot of self-employed people don't have anything to fall back onto. So if your main income is just from, let's say you're a restaurant, so you got your restaurant, but if you can't go in tomorrow to open the doors, no one's going to come in, you're not making any money. What income protection does is give you that salary. So you get a policy in place, let's say it has a deferred period, meaning a time period when you're off work where they don't pay, but after that they will start paying you a percentage of your salary. Depending on the cover you get, you could have 80%, 70%. So at least that way, even if you are out of work, your bills are getting covered, you're getting a regular income coming in, and it helps a lot of families where they are self-employed people. Or even if somebody is employed, the contract might just say that they're getting benefits till a few months. But if you're on a good salary, let's say 40,000-50,000 pound a year, and then you go into state benefits, you're not going to be able to cover your expense, you're not going to be able to cover your mortgage, your outgoings. So you need to have something in place for that.
Thank you, Shoaib. Thank you. Well explained.
Shoaib, can I just interact if you don't mind?
Sure.
So when you say you're protected your salary, so if you're getting £40,000, do they give you a certain percentage?
Yes,
if you're or certain percentage?
So depending on the cover you get by yourself, so it's like all insurances. So you have an excess in place, you have the amount of cover you want to get. Do you want to get, let's say your expenses are covered by 30,000, you will get cover for that amount. So normally insurances providers, they work on a monthly basis. So let's say your net income on a monthly basis after tax £4,000. You would say, okay, really and truly my mortgage, my bills will be covered within £3,000. I'll be able to survive on that.
So typically speaking, it's about 50 to 60% of your declared income is what they cover, because the last thing they want is you're getting used to of not working, going back to work and just living on that. That is not obviously a healthy situation for the client himself. So typically speaking, they will cover 60% of your declared income, but obviously it has to cover all your expenses, and those are the sectors that you need expert advice, conversation, discussion with your advisor and the provider.
But I think what Brother Shoaib has said is very, very important. In our community, that people's got restaurants, and that's the backbone of their business.
Yes.
And if they're crippled, say they've had an accident or they're cooking in the kitchen, any type of accident can happen in the kitchen or at the front of house. Now, if you are in that situation and you've got this type of insurance, it's a fantastic opportunity that you can lead your life as normal, but you don't get carried away saying, okay, 6 months I'm not going to work. But at least for the first 3-4 months, it could keep you going.
They will support you for as long as necessary. Even if it is 2 years, 3 years, 25 years, they will support it if you have that kind of policy. So this is what I'm saying. Expert advice, conversation, recommendation is required. A lot of people shy away, or they're not too keen to talking to anybody. I would say get out and talk, have a conversation.
Yeah, but even if the incident happened, then it's too late. So I think this program is so important that we are broadcasting to the wider community, and our own community watch these programs in a regular basis. And I think that what you've said is very vital, and I think people should take some sort of advice from professional people like yourself and other people.
And just one thing else to mention, Bhai mentioned earlier that they want you to get back to work, and some providers even give you classes, mobility. So for example, let's say you've had a back injury, you can't get back to work, they'll even refer you to specialists, they'll even help you kind of get back to work, because at the end of the day, the insurer does obviously want to pay your salary for the rest of your life. They want you to be able to get back.
And obviously you don't want to be sick all your life.
So you want to get...
You need to be mobilized yourself. You know, you may be ill for a certain period, but you want to go back to your normal lifestyle, and that's the best way.
And the thing for insurance is there if you need it. It's not meant to be like, oh, tomorrow I want to make a claim. It's more in the sense, what if something goes wrong?
What if something happens?
And it's reassuring yourself, making sure that you're, when it's a bad time comes, you're in a good hands.
Your family is covered, yourself is covered. You know, you go
you're
to
in a
sleep
good hand
with
of looking after yourself.
Peace of mind, absolutely.
Sorry, I just had to.
Absolutely.
I want to, because we're having interaction questions, and I like to tell the viewers that, you know, this is why we've got professional people in this platform who can actually explain to you, and they can. It's a food for thought, because there's millions of people watching this and they don't know about this. And today's meeting, I think, it's finance, it's business, it's all interlinked. You know, finance and business all interlinked. Without finance, you can't do business, or you can't business, you can't do finance. So it's
you need to protect all of it, because without protection, you can lose it all tomorrow.
Exactly.
No, thank you so much, Shoaib and Rois Alibai, Dr. Rois Alibai, for your valuable input. So going back to talking about property investment again, we love talking about investment.
I really love it as well. I'm very excited.
Same here. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So obviously, property investment is not just buy a house and make lots of money. There are lots of challenges. What are the challenges that you had to face, or any investors that come in the market that have to face, and what would be your advice to the new investors that are looking to come into property investment market?
See, there's two type of struggle I had in my lifetime. First time was when we were sort of going into in 80s and 90s, when you were buying properties. We used to sort of speak to the bank managers in first hand. We used to know name by first hand, and being in the curry field, you know what they used to say, right? I'm coming to your restaurant, we're going to have a meal. By that time, he said the money's in the bank. Those type of relationship. But now, after 30 years later, this is all changed. It's all about credit score. It's all about if you can affordability. Now the youngsters, I will say, I mean the way we did business, nowadays the youngsters are more sharp in a different way. We were sharp in one way, but they are sharp in a different way. They will do market research. So if they are going to buy a property, first of all, they'll go to Zoopla. They will see how this property was sold before, what was the purchase price, and then when they make their offer, they will make accordingly. Before, what we used to say, right, okay, he's doing well, and I want to open a restaurant, regardless about what I'm going to do. It was ego. I want to open a restaurant there. Next to it. But he doesn't realize that when he opens a restaurant, nor he can survive or the other guy can survive. So we made a lot of mistakes over the years. But nowadays, youngsters, they do a lot of market research. And the problem we are facing now is getting lending. But you have to have right planning. Now, if you are thinking that I want to build a 10-story building, you have to have the 10-story foundation. This is so important. So planning, financial planning, and planning for your business insurance is so important. It works hand to hand. But back in the days, a lot of people did well and a lot of people fail. But it's the planning is important. And buying properties now is not easy or it's not difficult. It's how you plan things. So if you plan well, you can buy properties.
Fantastic. No, thank you. So what I got from you is planning, research, preparation, and obviously good financial backing or advice or arrangement is key. Thank you, Dr. Rois Alibai. Coming back to you again, quickly, just I would like to ask Shoaib, obviously we talked about PMI and we talked about income protection, but the two obvious one, life insurance and critical illness policies. If you can explain to our viewers, obviously a lot of people will have known about this, but if you explain what these are and what is it covered, and now what scenarios, situation that those two policies would come handy.
Now the first one, as you mentioned, by life insurance. Now life insurance is a very key thing again. Now all these different insurances, they come hand in hand, but they all have their different purpose. Life insurance is normally a large payout at the end. Now I know it's difficult to talk about that and people passing away, but is something that's inevitable. Everyone has to go one day. But what are we leaving behind? One is our legacy, and the second is our wealth, our generation wealth for families. But what you don't want to leave behind is debt or liabilities. Now, a lot of families, they take on mortgages, they take on debts, they take credit cards, they take borrowing. But if you haven't got anything in place to pay that off, your family is going to struggle then. They're going to have to pick up whatever's the liability left, because the banks, unfortunately, they don't forgive, they don't write it off. They will say, okay, so-and-so owed us 200,000, that needs to be paid, or the house needs to be remortgaged. So firstly, life policy, what is sometimes used to is pay off the liabilities. Another use for life insurance is inheritance tax planning. So you could get a whole of life policy, and if you speak to a investment planner, they could tell you, okay, this will be your liability on your inheritance tax. You could get a policy in place to cover that. So let's say somebody has £2 million worth of wealth, 40% of that, 800,000. If you have a policy of 800,000, then your kids know that, okay, your families know that when the individual was to pass away, their inheritance tax will be paid off by the policy.
And that's a very fantastic point. Whole of life policy, obviously you have term life policies. You can buy a policy, something happens to you within that term, the liability is covered. But whole of life policy is in the financial world or in a planning world, they sometimes call it savings policies. So, you know, in your example, say like someone has 200,000, 500,000, £1 million whole of life policy. That means whenever that person dies, this policy will pay out.
No matter.
So no matter in 5 years' time or 50 years' time, whenever that person dies, the term of the sum assured, whatever the policy cover was, will be paid out. Now, this kind of policy is normally, the premium is normally high.
Saying that, but it's not that high.
But is it the inheritance tax they pay?
Exactly. So this is where you know it can be used in so many different ways. So say like if someone had a 500,000 whole of life policies, and sorry, we have a caller on the line. Let's go and talk to the caller.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bala asen bhai.
Ji alhamdulillah bhai khe khoira, and আপনার কোশ্চেনটা কি তা প্লিজ?
শেখ তাহির হইয়ার।
জি।
আসসালামু আলাইকুম এভারগ্রিন রইসালি ভাই।
ওয়া আলাইকুম সালাম, ভালো আছেন নি?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আল্লাহ রাখেন, বহুত দিন বাদে দেখছি আপনাকে।
জি 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 জি।
আমি একটু জানতাম চাইছিলাম প্রাইভেট হেলথ কেয়ার আর ও যে ইন্স্যুরেন্স এটা কোনো প্রাইভেট হেলথ কেয়ার তো ভেরি এক্সপেন্সিভ এখন আমার লাগি। আমার তো বয়স হয়ে গেছে, তো আমি বেশ ট্রাই করছি, তো এটা তো এফোর্ড করার নাই। তো এটা কোনো আসেনি, কোনো কোম্পানি করেননি?
আচ্ছা জি, আপনি সুন্দর একটা ইস্যু রেজ করছেন ভাই শেখ তাহির আলী ভাই, যে অনেকে আমরা কমিউনিটিতে আসলে এই ভুলটা আমরা অনেকে করি যে টু লেট হওয়ার পরে তারপরে আমরা তুকাই গিয়া বুঝনি। ইন্স্যুরেন্স আপনি একটা জিনিস খেয়াল করবা, রিস্ক তারা ফর ইন এক্সচেঞ্জ অফ এ প্রিমিয়াম দে আর টেকিং ইউর রিস্ক। সো এই রিস্কটা যে সময় কম থাকে ওই সময় আমরা পলিসিগুলো লওয়া দরকার ইয়াং থাকতে। আমি ইন আদার ওয়ার্ডস, সো ইয়াং থাকতে যদি পলিসি লইন তে কিন্তু প্রিমিয়াম খুব কম হয়। আর যে সময় আমার দরকার অনেক ধরনের বেমার আজার হইল, অনেক বয়স বেশি হয়ে গেছে, তখন কিন্তু প্রিমিয়াম হাই হয় এবং অনেক ক্ষেত্রে দেখা যায় যে খাবারও তো কাইয়া পাওয়া যায় না। যে সমস্যা
আমি কিন্তু 1980 থেকে আমার প্রাইভেট হেলথ কেয়ার পলিসি আছিল। জি, তখন আপনি ঠিকও কইছেন যে আমার আছিল £29.50 পার মান্থ। এক্স্যাক্টলি জি। তখন আমার 7 বছর আগে আমি দেখলাম যে দেখলাম ব্যাংক স্টেটমেন্টে £279 নেই মাসে। জি জি জি। তখন আমি ফোন করিয়া তারা কইছিলাম যে আমাদের চিপার পলিসি দাও, এটা তো বেশি হয়ে যায়। আর আমি কিন্তু কোনোদিন ইউজ করছি না তারা। তারা কয় অলরেডি ডিসকাউন্টেড প্রাইস, তোমার ভালো লাগলে থাকো আর না যাও। জি থ্যাংক ইউ। আমার একটু খারাপ লাগলো, রুল ভাবে হইলো, এটা খারাপ লাগলো, আমিও পেমেন্ট বন্ধ করে লইছি।
জি, আনফরচুনেট সিচুয়েশন। তাহলে ভাই আপনি যদি ব্যক্তিগতভাবে কোনো অ্যাডভাইজারের লগে যোগাযোগ করুন, বইয়া মাতিয়া দেখা হয়তো কোনো একটা সলিউশন বার করা যাইব বাট ই যে আপনি যে সিচুয়েশন অনেকে এই সিচুয়েশন আনফর্চুনেটলি কয়েক বছর আগে একটা মর্গেজ অ্যারেঞ্জ করবার সময় এক কাপড়রে আমরা তো রেকমেন্ড করি সব সময় এই সময় পলিসি লইলা না ঠিক আছে 3-4 বছর বাদে বেচারা খান্দিয়া ফোন করছে না আমারে ভাই আমি একটা পলিসি দরকার কিতা আমার তো অতা বেমার ধরা পড়ছে এখন আর কেউ তান্ডে পলিসি
এখানে ইন্স্যুরেন্স কোম্পানি ওই লগে অফার হ্যান্ড এখানে অফার হ্যান্ড রয়েছে তারা দেখের NHS এর সার্ভিসটা খুব পোর আর ব্যাকলগ ইজ হিউজ এটা তারাও চার্জ করতে পারে বাট আমি মনে করবো যে তাহির আলী ভাই আপনি কাম করুকা যে বালা অ্যাডভাইজার কাছে গিয়া আপনার একটা তারে রিইনস্টেট করার সুযোগিতা করুকা একটা ফারবার রিইনস্টেট করা তার
এটা রিইনস্টেট করা যাইতো জি বাট আপনি অবশ্যই মাতলে অ্যাডভাইজারে আপনারে একটা অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েটলি অ্যাডভাইস করতে পারবো বা চেষ্টা করতে পারবো নয়া কোনো পলিসি দেওয়ার তাহির আলী ভাই জি জি থ্যাংক ইউ সো থ্যাংক ইউ তাহির আলী ভাই দেখতে থাকো কাশো আমরা আসলে টাইম একবারে আমার ফিউ সেকেন্ডস রয়েছে কইরা you know both of you thank you for coming to the show I had lots of other questions maybe I'll leave them for another day but thank you শুধু দর্শক এতক্ষণ আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য আপনাদেরকে অসংখ্য আপনাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে অবশ্যই আমাদেরকে প্রশ্নগুলো করুন আজকের মতো ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে এখানেই শেষ করছি আসসালামু আলাইকুম